So let's get started officially in five, four, three, two, one. Hello, everyone. My name is Taryn, and this is Mastering Your Anxiety During the Holidays. I truly appreciate it. I truly appreciate everybody joining. If you have not, please make sure you go to my social channels. I am Taryn L. We have done Mastering Your Anxiety prior to this, and Mastering Your Anxiety, the first series in May, and then Mastering Your Anxiety, the second series in August, Mastering Our Anxiety in Corporate America. Today, we are doing Mastering Your Anxiety During the Holidays. Just a few quick reminders. This will be recorded, and so it'll be on all of our social channels later. This webinar is being recorded and will be on our social channels, as well as feel free to put some questions in the chat or some questions in our Q&A for our panelists. So we will go ahead and get started. Our panelist number one, Miss Jasmine Browley. Jasmine is a travel journalist. She focuses on travel stress, expectations, and boundaries. Goodness, we all have that, right? Our next panelist, Melissa Pauline. She's a mental health expert focusing on emotional regulation and self-awareness. And then we have Dr. Rosie Thomas focusing on our financial stress, budgeting, and guilt-free decision making. She is our financial wellness advocate. So thank you all three for joining me today. We will get started with, we were talking about this earlier, but when we think about the holidays, ladies, I said to myself, when I thought about mental health, I thought about travel, and I thought about finances. I just gave one brief example of just we all, if you're traveling at all for the holiday, have had to buy some sort of way to get there, right? Mode of transportation. For myself, I'll give the example of the plane ticket. And this encompasses all three of you trying to figure out how we can calm this anxiety about flying, calm this anxiety about traveling, and then Dr. Rosie, calm our anxiety about spending the money. So if each of you could just real quickly start off with a little synopsis about yourself and maybe talk to us a little bit about this first example and how each of your expertise can help us kind of start to get through our travel needs and our financial needs and how we can take care of ourselves. Let's just start off with buying a plane ticket as the example. Who wants to go first? Melissa, I'll pick you. Go ahead.
So buying a plane ticket, for everybody, I'm Melissa Pauline, nurse practitioner, psych private practice. And we were talking about this earlier. So buying a plane ticket is anxiety ridden, especially for me personally, if I have a layover, right? Because we want to make sure that we have everything that we need. We want to make sure nothing is left behind. Um, Especially during the holidays where there's just a lot of hustle and bustle and you're traveling, more likely you're traveling with family and friends. So there's just a lot to go with that. What I'd like to tell my clients a lot of times is sometimes we just have to say no. If a yes is always great, but if it's causing you to trigger and have increased anxiety over traveling, sometimes we just have to say no, just to give ourselves time, to recalibrate, and to also kind of get ourselves together. But if you are traveling with family and friends, I teach a lot of my patients, breathing techniques, in order for them to get themselves control of their anxiety, because anxiety can be triggered just by flying and it can cause palpitation, shortness of breath, um, double vision, dizziness. So one way of being grounded is just to do breath work, which is, taking a deep breath, hold it for 7 seconds, release it, do that several times, just to kind of get yourself in a space of calm, especially while traveling.
Yeah, Melissa, how do we, because I think that's important. I think it's important to one, identify our triggers, right? And then two, figure out how we can, I know just staying in the present, right, is so important. So what are some tips maybe you could think of to tell us like, I know the deep breaths, but like, I'm thinking of running through the airport or whatever. How can we really just stay in the moment during this time and then really identify those triggers that say to us because plane ticket is just one of mine, it's just one of the ones
Right.
that I thought about, but I'm sure there's many others that was, as you know, participants on this call, they have many others. So what are some things that we can do to identify those triggers before they start and then stay in the present? I mean, you talked about deep breaths, but anything else out there for us to say, hey, just take a moment.
I would say a lot of times just writing things down, right? Making sure that we get to the airport on time. If you're traveling, going through the airport, allowing yourself enough time to get to where you need to go.
Mhm.
Writing down tasks. That helps a lot of my patients with anxiety and also those that are neurodivergent ADHD patients, where you just write tasks of things that you need to get done, things that need to be packed. If those are your triggers of either overpacking, underpacking, losing your luggage, then write in a task, just a list of things that you need to have done and check them off as you go. And then, like I said, also giving yourself time to get to where you need to go.
So I think that's great. Jasmine, I know one of the things that you talk about, and I'd like for you to introduce more about what you do, but you talk about the planning part of this. And I think going into what Melissa said, that can help us like reduce this stress as well, right? Like thinking about the planning that comes along on the back end of our travel time that can help us reduce our anxiety. If you could share a little bit more about what you do and maybe some things about the planning process during our travel that could help us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you stated, I am a journalist primarily focused on Black culture, and I'm lucky enough to weave in some of my personal interests, which includes travel. So, I've pretty much talked about it all when it comes to going to destinations, how to get there, what goes into actually making sure that you have everything you need once you're there. And one of the things that I know to be true about myself is that I can't do too many things to help be streamlined. So, what I mean by that is, I know there's a bunch of different tools and apps that are supposed to help your travel planning be easier. And you want to kind of use them all to make things simpler, which overcomplicates things. I find one tool and I kind of utilize that throughout the entire planning process. So back to your original question about what you should do to make sure that purchasing the plane ticket is as stress-free as possible. I use one tool. It's called Hopper. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, but it does all of the hard work of aggregating all of the most affordable flight prices in one place. And you simply scroll through and see which one makes the most sense for you. And it actually allows you to book the ticket directly through that portal instead of having to go to different airline apps or to the website if you're old school like me. And it cuts a lot of those extra steps out. So, really finding one thing to do that will help you get this process just over with. That's really my mantra nowadays. I just want to hurry up and get it over with. Has really helped me minimize the stress when it comes to travel planning.
So I think about one tool. So let me ask you a question because, and this goes, so Dr. Thomas, I want to get into the financial aspect of this as well, because my question goes to, so maybe to both of you, I'll go to Dr. Thomas for now. So my question is, now from Melissa, I have identified my triggers. From Jasmine, I have found one tool.
Mhm.
Now I'm about to pull out my debit card, right? So I've now gotten to you and I'm like, I have this one tool, but a lot of us, we hop around from tool to tool because we're trying to save money,
Mhm.
right? So we hop around from Hopper to United to American to Expedia to Priceline to all the things. So give us a little bit about one, what you do, and then two, how to help decrease this financial stress for us, because this is a big thing during the holidays, whether it's traveling or gifting. Talk to us a little bit about what this plane ticket scenario. We found one tool, here we are, now we're about to open up our credit card or debit card. What does that look like containing our stress when it comes to finances? And tell us a little bit about what you do.
All right. So I am Dr. Rosie Thomas. I'm an accountant and an accountant now for 21 years. So I've helped many entrepreneurs transform their businesses as well as their finances. When it comes to traveling, I highly recommend, even before the holiday, to set a budget because I see a lot of families, getting in debt or living beyond their means or just finding themselves really behind during the holidays because everyone wants to make sure that they're, being the perfect host or showing up really, really nice, especially when they're going to in-laws' house and people homes that they've never been before. They want to, buy the perfect gift, wear the matching pajamas that they saw on social media, TikTok. So it could be a lot. So not just with the money aspect, just the holidays and trying to have that perfect holiday celebration altogether could be expensive. But the very first thing I highly recommend anyone to do is set a budget. Look at what you have as far as your personal finances. Your mortgage or your rent, your utilities. Make sure that that is covered first, and what's left over, you can budget to buy those matching pajamas and buy that flight ticket. Traveling during the holidays is very, very expensive, especially if you're traveling for as a family. So I highly recommend purchasing tickets early on than last minute. And then, I mean, just to be honest, like if you can't afford it, if you just simply can't afford it, it's okay to say I can't make it rather than stress out and try to make it and come back and can't, pay your mortgage or your rent. So budgeting is like key around the holidays because you want to make everything, but if your finances doesn't allow, then you just have to be okay with saying you can't make it.
I think that's an interesting one. And it leads me to another question. And before I get to that, I've heard this saying, and it's like, look, the holidays, they're at the same time every year. So you can budget throughout the year for whatever holiday tradition you celebrate, right? Because if whatever tradition you celebrate, it comes at the same time every year. So think about it as not just you have to put away money for, Christmas or whatever.
Mhm.
You're putting away all year for Christmas. You don't have to put away just starting December 1st, right? So to your point of the budget, if you celebrate Christmas and if you don't celebrate Christmas, if you celebrate any tradition, that same tradition comes at the same time every year. Now, I want to go back to one thing you said, and I want to pose this question again to all three of you about saying no, you can't make it.
Mhm.
Saying no, you can't make it. So, anybody who wants to talk about the setting the expectations, because here all three of you again come into play. Setting expectations could mean setting expectations on gifts or not gifts. On some people won't buy, right? They'll say, we're not going to buy, we're going to go experiences. Anxiety comes in when others have the expectation of you to do something and you can't do it. And then furthermore, even the travel component of it, right? Like you said, like, hey, I can't make it. What are some other options that people can do if they literally can't get to the next destination? Because this expectation part of the travel, I think, is a big part of a lot of people's anxiety too. The financial part, and then setting this expectation on that we're going to be anywhere or do anything. Because what if you don't want to do anything?
Right.
What are your thoughts on that and how we can better set expectations for ourselves and for others?
I'll hop in first because I'm actually going through a little bit of this, not necessarily for the holidays, but for a friend's birthday destination trip that I would like to attend, but I'm leaning toward no. And it's a little bit of a tough battle for me because she's one of my dear friends and she always shows up for me, but I really just don't have it in me to travel. Um, I wanted to tell her a little white lie, honestly, because sometimes it comes to that. Sometimes you can't just simply say no, period, because it can come across insensitive. So sometimes it's okay to give a little bit of an explanation. And say, hey, I can't make it because I have a conflict. And, that can give them a little bit of resolve to say, hey, she's just not saying no to me because she doesn't want to go. She has something else to do when really you might not have something to do. but you just, you can't make it and you're covering your bases. Now, I know this is a little bit controversial, but sometimes, realistically speaking, you do want to give a reason for not being able to go. And please, ladies, jump in if this is something that you have thoughts on. But that's my little bit of a piece of advice for that.
So one thing I want to ask to Melissa is I think it's okay to take the load off yourself to be able to say no without feeling like what Dr. Thomas talks about in the financial component, guilt-free decision.
Right. So I think our society, we have a case of FOMO. So you don't want to miss out on things, but then you also, when it comes to financials, can't do it either. And that's where the balance needs to come into play. There has to be a balance where we need to be okay with missing out on things because financially we can't do it. We are caught up in this, we it's a vicious cycle, right? So we're on this hamster wheel where it's like, okay, I want to stop being anxious. I don't want to be triggered, but I still want to go on this trip, but it's so expensive and I'm going to just make payments. And now everything is falling behind. And you just like, and the anxiety starts creeping up. It starts building. So it's building from the fact that you can't afford it, but you want to do it, but you don't because you don't want to miss out on it. We just have to come to terms with being okay with saying no, and missing out and having boundaries to say, hey, I just can't afford it right now. Things are kind of hard for me. And that'd be okay. And then it also needs to come on the other side where the person that has invited you, the family member that has, invited you to come, they need to also be okay with the fact that you can't do it. So, I mean, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, right? So you want to do it to be there for your friend, but also your friend has to also understand that you just can't do it and I just can't pressure you to do it. Because that's a trigger that causes anxiety for me because anxiety comes in different forms. It's not just the palpitation and the sweating. It comes in decreased appetite. It comes in waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, short of breath, like, oh my God, like you've missed an assignment, you've missed the bus, you've missed your alarm clock. So anxiety comes in different forms. It's not just one thing that is going to show up. There are different things that manifest when it comes to anxiety. But like I said, our society, we hate to miss out. We hate to say no. We don't give ourselves enough boundaries. And that we overload ourselves with different commitments to the point now we're the ones that's holding on to the baggage of anxiety and have nowhere to release it.
Yeah, I think that's so important. We do overcommit, right? I think that's a big one. And so this is Master Your Anxiety during the holidays, everyone. So thank you again so much for joining us. Please feel free to put I'll take a look at the questions here in a second and put anything in the chat that you may have. We're talking with Melissa, Pauline, Jasmine Browley, and Dr. Rosie Thomas about our financial, our mental, and our travel anxieties that we have over the holiday. So Dr. Thomas, then so we have all these expectations, we've set them, we've set our budget, but guess what? We go over the budget.
Okay.
We go over the budget. Our plane ticket was $500 more than we thought it was. Our spouse wants to spend more than he or she, than we do. Now we're back to this anxiety-ridden situation, and we've
Okay.
got to get gifts.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah, what should we
it
do,
happens.
Dr.
It
Thomas?
happens.
We're in a little.
But I do want to also point out there's many and it I mean I'm not saying get in debt, but there are many credit cards too with those different perks. So like for me, an example, I know I'm always on the flight. So my go-to card is my American Airline card where I earn miles. So I use that credit card for my everyday expenses. And of course, with my pay, I pay it back in full every month. And there's some things that you can do too to have free up miles for the holiday, and you can use those miles. So I wanted to add that before, but back to what you were saying. What if you go over budget? It happens. If you go over budget, you just have to cut back somewhere else. So if you went over budget with your plane tickets, then you have to cut back on your gifts. You have to wear something you already have. You
Oh,
may have
oh no.
it happens. You can't go too far in debt or get too far behind, but you have to sit down and you have to think. It's somewhere you can cut back. And a lot of times we try to think of everyone to get a gift. We
Mhm.
always want to overextend and make sure that we get the perfect gift. It's okay to buy because it's the thought that count. It's okay to catch a Black Friday special and get 5 candles for $20. I know it's not that cheap, but just throwing it out there. But you have to find a way to cut back because you don't want to come back from the holidays on January the 1st and not able to, pay, your everyday cost of living. So I would say find a way. I know it's something somewhere that you can cut back. You can miss going out to eat. You can miss a date night, a family day out, like, or even, make do something that doesn't cost. So I
Mhm.
would say find a place to cut back for sure.
Yeah, I think that's a challenge. Let me look in that Q&A and make sure I'm not missing anything. I think I have, let's see. Yeah, I think I have it all there. I think this is, oh, here, after getting on, oh, can you guys see the chat? Can you see it or no? You can't
Yeah.
see it? So after getting on the airplane, my wife starts to feeling anxiety coming on. What advice would you give so that, what advice can you give me so that I can be of help? We have that question in the chat.
I would say for that specific um distraction,
Mhm.
conversation, affirmations, prayer works as well. Just knowing that, the crew is trained for every situation. The plane has flown safely hundreds of times.
Mhm.
My body's feeling fear, but I am not in danger. Um, One thing I've said when I get on a plane, I get anxious. Is like, there's babies on the plane. Like, they won't never take this plane down because there's babies they need to grow. Like, it's just things that you can say to yourself that's just like, okay, um, like you're affirming that you're going to get to where you need to get to safely. And then there's also like calming playlists that she can listen to, meditation apps that she can download, audiobooks, with like soothing sounds. And then I understand that sometimes, and then of course breath work also works well. And then there are some people that need, to have some sort of like medication because they get so anxious on the flight. And that's okay too. You can always talk to your primary care doctor and just let them know, like, whenever I get on the flight, I get really anxious. And I have really bad palpitations and really bad anxiety, and they can give you medications that'll take to kind of take the edge off while you're flying. I know I have a couple of patients that, take medication if they're flying like out of the country, long distance flights. So like if they're within the US, 2, 3 hour flights, they're okay. But anything longer than that throws them into like a whirlwind. So they do take medications to help. But I would say, shifting like distraction when it comes to self-talk, having her download playlists also helps. Deep breathing, exercises, meditation, all of those normally help people.
And I want to make sure, any recommendations for coping strategies for triggering situations with family, friends, and loved ones? So that's a good one because I feel like that one could come into play at all the areas too. I was going to go to Jasmine, your situation about going to your friend's um, event, and everybody's doing like a destination thing now. Everybody's going
Mhm.
somewhere. It's like you have 10,000 destination things to go to during the year, and then to put the holidays on top of that. So, what are some coping strategies to help us with dealing with those family, those friends, those things that think we are supposed to go there? And then anybody can answer, what are some coping strategies once we get there and we're like, this is my most unfavorite aunt, you know? Or what do I do when I get here? And she thinks I should spend an exorbitant amount of money on her. How
Mm-hmm.
with that, and how do I financially bow out or
Right.
mediate? So any thoughts there on Should I even go there? And then when I get there, she's asking me to spend a whole bunch of money on her.
Yeah. So I go through this every year, honestly, because it's two sides of my family. It's the bougie side and then it's the real side. And sometimes things get real. So when certain stressors come up, I try to immediately identify a space in the house that I can go and regroup. So
Mm.
if the aunt's house that you go to has two bathrooms, try to go to the downstairs bathroom, stay in there for about 10 minutes, talk to yourself, get on your phone, and remind yourself that you're only going to be here for however long you choose to be here. Just get through it and leave. That's what I can personally attest to that's gotten me through some trying times during the holidays. You love your family, but you know how they are. Um, and then also, back to your framing of the question, Taryn, deciding whether or not you want to go in the first place, which
Right.
circles back to what we were talking about, the power of no. You can decide not to go this year. Again, if it comes down to it, if you have to tell a little white lie and say, hey, I have an obligation, or I can't make it, or I feel like a little tickle in my throat, if you have to say that, just so you don't ruffle too many feathers because it is family, do what you have to do. And Melissa, let me know if I'm off base here, but sometimes that just saying no and not offering an explanation just isn't enough for some people. So determining that you're going to say no and then having a follow up can really help.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. Like I said, going back to boundaries, we all have to set our boundaries and know our limits, right? So if we know that Aunt Betty triggers us, then therefore we either go with the timer on. You're like, okay, I'm gonna go. We're gonna be there for 2 hours, and 2 hours, that's it, a max. And have your phone set, ring. Hey, I have an emergency. I have to go. You know what I mean? But I was there. Sometimes you just have to do that, to not hurt their feelings, and still be present in the moment with family. Because not all family is family, right? Not all family get along. So sometimes, you just have to put on a brave face, have the boundaries. If you can't make it, you can't make it. Unfortunately, can we meet another time? And this is not a right time for me, because you also have to be able to protect yourself and protect your peace, right? And then anxiety causes you to have, to not be able to protect that peace. So having boundaries is very important, especially around the holidays when it comes to travel and finances, because you're the only one that's going to, at the end of the day, have to deal with it, by yourself.
Dr. Thomas, do we buy our aunt a gift or no and feel guilty?
So if it was me, I'm real big on my peace, and I would have stay home, have something at home, but still send my aunt, a cake or something, just something. Nothing too big, but still send her something. Say, hey, I wish I could make it, but I can't. I'm cooking at home this year with me and my family, so she won't feel upset because normally, your aunt would know it, she's not your favorite. So with me, I'll just send her something. And it doesn't have to be anything big, some flowers, a cake, a pie, something like that, and still stay home and cook. It'll be okay.
So that means the best of both worlds, right? So
Best of both worlds.
you save yourself
Right.
some money and some anxiety, but you still got your aunt a little something to show your appreciation and your acknowledgement, if you
Yeah.
will, holidays, right? Yeah, I think that's good because I feel like you got the best of both worlds because I feel like that
Mhm.
is a triggering thing. Like our families can be, triggering whether or not we don't have any say over that, right? I think that that's where it comes in setting the expectations. But I think sometimes we can like, I'll speak for myself. I feel like just set an expectation, but it doesn't always go the way I've set it, right? And other people will push those expectations to the limit. And then we have to
Right.
say, again, coming back, I think this whole conversation has come back to boundaries and setting boundaries, whether it be on our finances, whether it be on our travel. Um, what other tips, Melissa, would you give us to, like, throughout the year? Like I said, we know the holidays are coming, right? So either of the three of you, throughout the year, the holidays come again, like at the same time each year. So if we think about the travel aspect, if we think about the finance aspect and the anxiety aspect leading up to the holidays, I don't know when most people's holiday anxiety starts, but I would beginning to, if you're talking about Christmas, if you celebrate Christmas, let's just use that as an example. If you don't, I would imagine like a month or two prior is when these anxieties start to come up. But maybe what things can we do throughout the year to keep all three of these things at bay? Like maybe we can start in February, like I said, budgeting, or maybe we can start in February looking for plane tickets, or when it's too early. That's the other question. Like that's the other thing. When is too early to start buying a plane ticket or thinking, being anxious? Is there a too early moment?
I don't think there's a too early moment. I think that what we have to think about is what, from a mental health standpoint, what
Mhm.
are our triggers? Um, when do we feel like our triggers are heightened? What time of the year that they're most heightened? And then having talk therapy. Having someone to be able to speak to in order to be able to A, identify the triggers, and B, find ways to get through the triggers that you're having through the anxiety. So for some people, for Christmas time, they probably start around October 31st, November 1st, when all the Black Friday sale comes, because they start bombarding you with Black Friday this, Black Friday that, and you're like, ooh, 50% off here. So, and then you start thinking of all the people that you have to buy a gift for. And then the list starts to grow. Like I know I do a list for like all, I do a list for my kids, what they want, my parents, my friends, and you're just like, this list just keeps growing because, your friends are having kids, your kids is having kids. Like I'm just like, oh my goodness, it's just like tripling every year. But I think being able to identify what those triggers are, being able to talk through it, and then starting at the beginning of the year so that it's not catching up to you in October, November. So if you start in January and say, okay, this year is going to be a year of self. You start in January, you get a therapist, and then you start working on your triggers so that when the holiday comes, you have ways of being able to cope.
So let's say for the three of you, you get together with your spouse or partner, and you say in February, this is what we're going to do. Do you communicate? And how do you communicate? I'm only spending this much on everybody. I'm not going to wherever. And I'm not going to let this stress me out. Do you communicate that in February?
I
You
would,
can.
especially if we've set
It
those
depends on what kind
goals.
of relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think it's good? And Jasmine, from your point of view, like as soon as you get that invitation to say, yep, we're going wherever, do you tell them as soon as you can, like I'm not going? In the nicest way, of course.
Um, yeah, you know what? Realistically, I say yes to almost every invitation that I receive because I'm so grateful to have it. And I do have the best intention of going. But if I ever get to the point where I know that it's going to be a no, I'll try to communicate it as early as possible. So, say if they extend an invitation, you said in February, or I start thinking about holiday planning in February. By the time October rolls around, I'm like, okay, maybe I don't want to go. And I'll start like soft shoeing, the possibility of me not being able to go. And this is just me speaking realistically. And
Because
it's an added layer to it because I am single, so everybody expects for me to be able to come. Um, so the expectation is a little different.
yeah, I think it's interesting on how we communicate it, right? Like, and when we communicate it,
For
because
sure.
that's the level of anxiety, like how we communicate the financial aspect. I mean, I'm not going to break it down and say like, okay, I talked to Dr. Thomas and she told me, here's my budget, and I'm not going to send my budget to my family. Everybody gets $50 and, but I need to communicate it some sort of way that, hey, I'm not, you know, going to get everybody everything this year. We only have a certain amount of money in our budget, right? And hey, I'm not going to every uh I went to so many things this year. I'm not going to be able to come out here for Christmas. And then even the communication part of it, Melissa, gives me anxiety
It does.
because then I feel like a gut in my stomach, like, oh, go ahead, Dr. Thomas.
No, I was gonna say that's what gives me an anxiety. Me knowing I'm not gonna be able to go and I'm holding on and I'm not telling them. So the longer I hold on to it, the longer it's gonna bother me. So
Mhm.
I would say if you know, for me, so it would be less stressful for me to just go ahead and say, like, if someone called me and my husband, like you said before, if we had that talk in February, someone called me in March, the first thing I'm going to say is, allow me to speak with my husband. I'll get right back to you. I'll take it back to my husband. If he's still saying no, then unfortunately, my husband had already had plans for us. I can't make it because if I prolong it, it's going to stress
Right.
me out.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like prolonging it stresses me out. And I do feel like it's in good agreement. I know you mentioned your spouse, so it's in good agreement. Make sure you get that agreement with your spouse. But I do understand, like from Jasmine's perspective, because I used to live in California, and everybody either did one of two things. I fell off the planet and they completely forgot that they had to visit me. But for some reason, it was very important that I visit them. And I would be like, I'm not coming to that because number one, it's like going to the moon and getting back and forth. And number two, I kind of felt like nobody came to visit me, so I'm not going over there. And that whole thing gave me anxiety, just being, that far away. Yes, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Dr. Thomas?
No, I'm just agreeing. I can only imagine. And I see it happen a lot. Everybody wants you to come to them, but they won't come to you. And
Yeah.
it bothers you.
And I think that I'm looking at, some of our points here and this power of choosing rest and slowness when everything feels urgent. I think that is where most of us land, during the holidays, right? Everything feels so immediate, even
Right.
though like, it comes every year and it feels so rushed and you get caught up in the moment and you get caught up in having to be all things to all people, I guess, right? As we're it is about, let's see, it's about 8:15, so we have a couple more minutes here. I kind of want to get into just a little bit of this relief moment, and the holidays have passed us, right? And now we're getting into, it's almost like, again, if we're using Christmas as example, I know some people don't celebrate Christmas, so just the holiday or the tradition that you celebrate that day after, you feel like it's very anticlimactic, right? It's like, okay, so it's over. So
Right.
we spent all our money, we're broke. We're either flying back home or going back to where we started. I'm not sure, Melissa, if our anxiety has decreased completely, but it's slowing down. And so now I think about like, now what? Because from Dr. Thomas, from your point of view, I can definitely see we're starting a new year, new finances, right? What are some tips we can do there to kind of restart if we kind of got off the boat?
I would say, and I know it's very hard, go ahead and start the year budgeting for the holidays. You can go back and look at how much you spent. If you're going to travel to your aunt's again, or what you spent. So I would say going into the new year, go ahead and put you a budget together because the last quarter is always hard for anyone, especially if you're a business owner. And I would say go ahead and put that budget in place early on so you can start saving for the holiday 12 months, before it hits. 11 months. So that's one of the things because I do see a lot of people, a lot of clients, they talk to me and it's like, they come in January like, oh, I don't have any money, I need funding, I need this, I need that. And it's only because they're stressed from the holiday.
I feel like there's a lot of stress that comes with it. And then when you get to the January, you're like, okay, I need to do something, right? I've been
Mhm.
everywhere. I've been the hostess with the mostest, and I've gone over budget. And then for you, Jasmine, it's like, okay, now I'm back, right? And now, I mean, because you're already getting travel invites in January, you're getting them for the next year already.
Right.
So I guess maybe talk to me from that because now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, Dr. Thomas has got me over here budgeting in January. Melissa's just trying to completely calm me down in general. And now you got me back on a plane going somewhere else, and I barely made it home. So just does that travel anxiety? I'm like thinking to myself, does it ever end? Because, like I said, January, you're getting invites already for
Yeah.
year, right?
Yeah. Yeah. For me, the travel anxiety does end because I kind of over index in joy a little bit, knowing that the holidays are over. So for me, the holiday time is twofold. You know, logistically, it can be a lot, but also for me in particular and my sisters, it's a tough time for us because our mom actually passed in December of 2018, and her birthday is December 24th. So we try to get through it as joyfully, but as mindfully as possible. And once it's over, by January 2nd, there's a huge relief. So we start planning for the rest of the year. And that's what we most look forward to. And again, back to, the practical side of things. We use like group planning apps.
Mhm.
So apps like Trova, we utilize and we start putting together ideas together. And that really helps bring our energy back up after having to go through the holidays again. And get back to the rest of the year where we can focus on joy.
Focus on joy. So,
Mhm.
Melissa, Jasmine brought up a big topic that I think comes up a lot during the holidays, and how can we get through it? And that is grief during the holiday. And and we've talked about a lot of different things, but the holidays are a tough time for some people.
Yeah.
Um, and so give us a little bit there on from your side about how we can, how we can work through that. Jasmine said, it's a tough time. And of course, that's could be anybody on this panel here on the invite. So how can we help with grief during the holidays as we talk about anxiety? Because that is the big thing.
I think you take it day by day, unfortunately. I always go back with the proponent of therapy. Therapy always helps talking it through the triggers of the seasons and the times. For me personally, the holidays are hard. Because I lost a child in January 2018. So it's just like, Christmas was his favorite time. So getting through the holidays, you just have to take it one season, one holiday at a time. And then boundaries. You decorate when you want to decorate. You don't want to decorate this year, then that's fine. You know what I mean? Don't have people forcing you to do things that you are not ready or that you don't want to do. Because healing takes time, and only you know when you've healed or when what stage of healing that you're in. A lot of people say, um, like time heals all wounds, and it really doesn't. You just learn through the years how to live with that pain. So it doesn't really go away. You just learn how to live with it on an everyday basis. And when the holidays come through, again, you get a little bit stronger every year. But it's just like I just keep going back to the word boundaries. Like you have to have them because if you don't, then the anxiety is going to be overwhelming because you're going to always think that you always have to perform or overperform for other people. And you only can do it for yourself. And that's exhausting sometimes. So when the holidays come around every year, the same time every year, you just take it. One day you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm ready to decorate and put up the Christmas tree. And by all means, you go ahead and do it. But if you don't feel like doing it this year, don't do it. Don't feel anxious to, do it to please other people. You just do it. If it's in your spirit to go ahead and do it and decorate this year, by all means. If it's not, there's always next year because Christmas always comes around the same time every year. That's one thing that's very constant. So you just do it at your own time and at your own pace, because if not, then that's what's going to increase your anxiety.
So take it one day at a time. So we've got just a few more minutes left. I just want to go for each of you again. I want you to give us kind of your final thoughts on how we can deal with each of your individual topics, our finance and our travel and our anxiety during these holiday times. I also want people to know where they can find you and where they can get a hold of you. And then just real quick, if there are any final questions, make sure I didn't get anything extra in the chat. I think I got everything from the chat. From the question and answer. So I'll start with you, Dr. Thomas. Final thoughts on how we can control our anxiety when it comes around to our finances during the holiday, and then where people can get a hold of you.
Yes, thank you. So for me, just making sure you stick to a budget. I know a lot of people during the holidays, mostly Christmas for those who celebrate Christmas, we find ourselves constantly going to the mall. Like we'll finish shopping, like, okay, I'm done. And then someone will call and say, I got you a gift or I got your son a gift. And you feel like you're obligated to buy them a gift as well. It's okay to stop. You don't have, everyone doesn't have to have the gift. Everyone doesn't have to have an expensive gift. If you can afford it, then yes. But if you can't, just stay within budget and it'll be okay. Christmas, like most of the ladies on it said, it's once a year, and no one is not going to disown you or dislike you because you wasn't able to get them an expensive gift or able to get them a gift at all. So that's one of the things that I wanted to point out because I see it happen again over and over again every year. Even with me, I had to stop that. Everybody that got my daughter or my son a gift, I feel like I have to give their child a gift, give them a gift, and before you know it, I'm way over budget.
Mhm.
But you can find me on Instagram, Dr. Rosie Thomas. I'm also on TikTok and Facebook as well, Dr. Rosie Thomas.
Thank you, Rosie, for letting us know it's okay to stop, and everybody doesn't have to have a gift all the time, and
Yeah.
especially the most expensive one, right?
Yes.
Even that aunt. Jasmine, what about you? How can we reduce our anxiety just during those moments of travel when we're expected to be everywhere at the same time during the holidays?
Yeah, we all know the blessing and the curse of planning. So it's inevitable, but what I will say is at this point in my life, I plan very differently now. Having traveled so much and knowing exactly what can come up, I ask myself, what would this look like if I really centered my peace? Because that hasn't ever really been a top question for me that I've answered. And sometimes that means taking a shorter trip or choosing a calmer time to fly as opposed to choosing the flight that's the cheapest. Sometimes it does take a couple of extra dollars to make sure that it's as smooth of a trip as possible. Um, if it's in my budget to book a hotel just so I can decompress instead of staying at a family's home, I'll do that. Or even building in some space and time to, again, honor my mom and make room for the wave of grief that I know is probably going to come. That's what I'll go. That's what I'll do. So really, it's about making sure that your plans are rooted in what's keeping you grounded rather than obligation, because you really do have to remember that this is your time to celebrate the holidays the way that you want, and it's okay to do it on your own terms.
Believe it or not, right? It's okay to do it on your own terms.
Yeah.
Oh, and did you tell us, Jasmine, how to find you?
It's just my first and last name. I'm very easy. So
Okay,
across all socials, it's just Jasmine Browley.
perfect. So, Melissa, we'll wrap it up with you. And just in general, for all these topics that we've talked about, just a couple of quick things on just overall, should we find ourselves being triggered by any of these things we've talked about today? Grief, finances, travel, expectations, boundaries, any of the things we've talked about today. What are some final thoughts you have for us for keeping our anxiety low, if not completely gone for the holidays or in general throughout the year? And
I
what,
would say, for one, it's okay to say no. Going back again to boundaries. If you can't do it, if it's causing you anxiety, if it's causing you grief, it's okay to to protect yourself, protect your peace, and say no, which is like the biggest message. I feel like we fear saying no because of what others would think of us, or we're not being a good friend. And sometimes you just need that space to be by yourself. And if you're with family, I agree with what Jasmine says, staying at a hotel, and not staying at the family house if I'm out of town, staying there for just 1 or 2 hours and making up an excuse that you need to leave just to be like, hey, I was here, I showed my face, happy holidays. Um, those are just like the important things. And then also knowing your triggers, because a lot of people don't know their triggers, or they do know and they tend to forget what their triggers are until they're actually in that situation. So talk therapy, having a therapist, walking through what your triggers are and ways to combat them, with grounding techniques and breath work techniques as well. All those can be very helpful because anxiety it's prominent during the holidays, but it's also prominent throughout the whole year. And I feel like that's really important to understand that anxiety comes in different forms for different people. And just because you're not having the sweaty palms, the palpitations, but you're waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're not sleeping for a good 6, 7 hours. You're having like decreased appetite, you're losing weight out of nowhere. Those are all signs and symptoms of anxiety. So it's not um just a one-time thing or a one season thing. There are different reasons why you would be anxious and on that standpoint. So those are like the tidbits and um key points of this discussion tonight. And I can be found on all social media platforms. My private practice is Nouveau U, BH, which means behavioral therapy. Nouveau is French for new, so new you behavioral health.
Thank you so much. So real quick, ladies, we are just real quick. This is an interesting one. So I'm going to get everybody to smile. This is going to be our ending thing. We're going to smile and then we're going to sign off. So everybody give us a good smile. All right. This is Mastering Your Anxiety During the Holidays. I would like to thank Melissa Pauline, Jasmine Bradley, and Dr. Rosie Thomas. I am Taryn Lamp. I am on all social platforms at I am Taryn L. So you'll be able to see this recorded webinar on our social platforms as well as on YouTube at I am Taryn L. And again, all social platforms. I really do appreciate it. The Mastering Your Anxiety series has been a great success this year. I look forward to continuing it in 2026. And just a quick tidbit of what I'm up to, one of the ways that I master my anxiety happens to be fitness. So I'll also be releasing a fitness app in 2026 that I look forward to sharing with you. It's a body weight fitness app aimed at people just like us, right? Anxiety, maybe on the go, travelers, maybe people who have and who suffer from different chronic illnesses. So just like people like myself, I will be launching a fitness app, which is one of my main ways of dealing. The gym for me or working out in general, not necessarily the gym, but working out is a non-negotiable. And when it comes to my anxiety. So I am Taryn L. And this is the series Mastering Your Anxiety During the Holidays. Thank you, Dr. Thomas, Jasmine, and Melissa. Until next time, everybody, be good to yourself and be good to others. And if you do celebrate the holiday, enjoy and be safe.
Bye bye.